and welcome back to my channel, where I'm going to quickly explain the optional class features provided by Tasha's Cauldron of Everything for the Sorcerer class. If you did not watch the video where I explain what optional class features are, I highly recommend watching that before you watch this particular video, as it will cover the basics of what types of optional features there are and go over some of the basic terms that I use in this video. To help out, I have provided a link in the description below. The Sorcerer class gains 3 new optional features that your character can take. There are 2 features that are providing new options for existing features, while 1 new feature that adds new capabilities to the class. And I've not really stated it in previous videos, but there is one point that needs to be made. These are optional features, meaning that your character does not automatically acquire them, so it is best to talk to your Dungeon Master before you take any of these features. They might not be allowing new optional features, or if they are, they might be looking to make them as a quest reward of some kind, so don't be surprised if they do not want your character to take the feature. They also might make these new options for existing features discoverable as lore as part of their campaign, so don't assume your character can make use of them right away. So let's move on to what these features actually are. The first new feature is available at level 1, and it is called Additional Sorcerer Spells. In total, there are 21 new spells that your character could potentially make use of in place of existing spells as your character levels up. This is also the first class that I've seen that introduces new cantrips, whereas all the other spellcasting classes I've covered so far have not done this. In addition to the new cantrips, of which there are 5, there are 2 new first level spells, 4 new second level spells, 2 new third level spells, 1 new 4th and 5th level spell, 3 new 6th level spells, and 1 new spell for levels 7, 8, and 9. And as per several other spellcasting classes, you can change out your existing spells at the time that your character levels up. But unlike other spellcasters, there is a limit to 1 per level. Though I have known DMs to be flexible with that rule in relation to the Sorcerer, and in some cases have introduced a quest to be able to handle the acquisition of new lore for the Sorcerer to be able to transition a new spell into their repertoire, if you will. So don't be surprised if the Dungeon Master is going to be very cautious about automatically assuming you're going to get access to these spells. Double check, just to be sure. However, let's say that you are able to swap out a spell, or even take a spell in relation to the new list that you have here. Let's say change out the Mage Armor here for Tasha's Caustic Brew. All you really have to do is remove the original spell from the list and then drop the new spell into place. And that's literally all you have to do. But let's move on to the next feature that your character is going to gain. And this is going to happen at level 3, and it is called Metamagic Options, which introduces a Seeking Spell and Transmuted Spell option. The Seeking Spell option allows your character to spend 2 sorcery points in an attempt to turn a miss into a hit. Now, if you're not sure what I mean by a sorcery point, I highly recommend you check out the videos where I do cover the Sorcerer itself, as I explain what those points are in relation to this particular type of character. And once again, I will make sure that there's a link in the description below for you to be able to quickly access that. Any spell that you cast, even if you've already used another Metamagic option on it that requires a d20 roll in order for you to hit something, can have that d20 re-rolled if the attack missed. This can be done only once, as your character must use the new result, so if it still misses, it is not possible to use this ability again to try to change that into a hit. Although, it could be argued that because of the ruling that allows your character to use this ability again, if your character has already used Metamagic, that it is possible to chain a series of uses of this option until your character has used up all of their sorcery points, or you have finally hit the target. I would argue, however, that that's not possible due to the restriction of having to make use of the new rule in the first paragraph, as this would supersede the second ruling, and that rule is right here. And you must use the new roll. But each DM is going to have their own opinion around that, and to be quite honest, watching a spell attack zip around the target until it hits would kind of be hilarious as part of an overall story being told. But essentially, we don't need to set up any features in the Actions tab to accommodate this. All we do is if you've chosen to take this Metamagic option, when you go and actually use it, you just simply tick off 2 sorcery points and then re-roll your attack roll. In this particular case, let me see if I can quickly find one. So that would be this. And ta-da, I've hit whatever it is I was attacking. The next option, called Transmuted Spell, allows your character to change the damage type of an existing spell into something else. This damage type must be of the acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison, or thunder damage type, and it must be changed to a type within that very list. So for example, you could technically transmute Thunderwave's thunder damage type to be that of fire if you so choose. This would happen at the expense of 1 sorcery point to be able to action this change, and it must be declared at the time your character is casting the spell. So if we return to our Thunderwave example, if you go ahead and cast Thunderwave, at the point where you are stating that you're casting Thunderwave, you would say, I'm using a Font of Magic or sorcery point to change its damage type to fire. This might require some initial preparation work on your part to ensure that your character's action tab has the appropriate changes in place before you could transmute a spell via this option. But it is not overly difficult to do, and I'll show you some examples on what can be done. So I'm going to use this Burning Hands spell as an example. It does 3d6 of fire damage as its normal, non-transmuted type of damage. And there are literally a couple of ways that we could go about doing this. We could modify this existing spell simply by updating this and changing this particular type here from fire to something else. So let's say cold damage. Or we could go ahead and create a new effect, if you will, or power group. Metamagic type would be a way to look at it, that would allow us to go ahead and actually preload this, if you will, inside of that ability. Another option could make things a little bit messy, and you could simply add a new damage type here, but instead of it doing 3d6 fire damage, oops, I need the dice added first. You get back here. Come on, get back here. There we go. Drop that into place. It does cold damage. So now you have your normal fire damage and your transmuted cold damage as options already preloaded in the spell. It's probably the one that makes the most sense because you're linking your transmutation to that spell, and all you have to do is tick off a sorcery point, and then you go ahead and roll your 3d6 cold damage to whatever target you happen to be hitting, despite the fact that it says Burning Hands. It's just extremely cold Burning Hands. And finally, the last option would be to create a Metamagic power group entry here. So let's move this to Sorcerer. And create a damage effect here. And you could set it up so that you could do, let's say you have several spells that make use of the 1d6. You could theoretically set it up so that you add 1d6 of cold damage here. But then, when you have something like the Burning Hands option kicking off, you go left-click on that DMG icon, holding it down and dragging it out to get the D6 roll, and then right-click to add 2 more dice, and then roll it or drop it on the combat tracker, and it should go ahead and roll the damage. So let's do that, for example, on the Succubus, for example. We should see that that Succubus will take damage. Now, it doesn't say, oh yeah, there it is. There's the cold damage there. So it did take some cold damage. Now, an adult black dragon, does it have any resistances? Yes, I believe it is resistant to acid. So if I go ahead and add in, say, another type here for acid, and we'll use the 1d6 again, we should see resistance, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, see, it resisted. So it took no damage. So this option would work. You could preload the various types of options that you could potentially make use of for your spells inside of this Metamagic, and then that way all you have to do is click your font of magic, drag it out to the number of dice that you have to deal with, and then drop it into the target or onto the target to do the damage to the target in question. It comes down to more what you're most comfortable doing, to be honest. So I will leave that up to you. The last feature that your character gains access to is called Magical Guidance, and it is made available to your character when they reach level 5. It will allow your character to make use of a sorcery point in order to turn a failed ability check into a successful ability check, or potentially successful, by re-rolling the d20 roll that triggered the initial failure. In this case, there's nothing really to add to your character sheet. You just need to remember that if you fail an ability check, you can re-roll it and use the new result. For example, let's say that we had to go through and we needed to make an acrobatics check. I'm going to roll that here just for the sake of simplicity. In this case, this was a pass, so let's see if I can get a very low one. There we go. So let's say this 9 was going to be a failure. I would go back to my Actions tab, tick off that I'm using a sorcery point, and then I would re-roll that. Now you have to use the result of the re-roll, even if it is still a fail. But in this case, it would have been a success, chances are. So that's essentially how you can make use of Magical Guidance. There's no need to track it in the Combat Tracker. There's nothing to add to your Actions tab. You just need to remember that you're going to make use of a sorcery point or font of magic in order to actually go through and execute the reroll. And finally, the last thing that I want to go over is around the default retraining abilities that are available for the Sorcerer and how you could use them for your character. This class does not have a retraining feature, so anytime you're looking to make a change to your character that might affect a skill, subclass, or any other changeable attribute, you will end up using the default rules provided by Tasha's Cauldron of Everything to handle those particular changes. And rather than repeat how that works in this particular video, I highly recommend watching the introduction video where I explain what those optional features are. This is because I've already gone over how that default process works for retraining within that video. But in conclusion, the new additions to the Sorcerer look interesting, and it's nice to see there is a wider range of options now available for the class in relation to their spells and their metamagic options. However, this does bring us to the end of this video, and I want to thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I wish to thank you for taking the time to watch this particular video. I hope you found it informative and useful to familiarizing yourself with Fantasy Grounds in general, and that you had fun in the process. If you found the video useful and you liked the content of the particular video, go ahead and click that like button to let me know. And if you have any questions specific to the topic covered by this particular video, or just have some comments in general, please feel free to post something in the comments section, and I will do my best to respond to any questions that are asked. Additionally, I do release content quite regularly, and it's generally specific to Fantasy Grounds or 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons at this time. So if you'd like to be notified when new videos come out, go ahead and subscribe and click the notification bell to ensure that notification is sent to you when I release a new video.